We never know where life will lead us or what may hinder us along the way. But while every day can feel like one big question mark, it doesn't have to. With the right insights, strategies, and solutions from Western and Southern Financial Group, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind.
Football focus doing. Last week they had Brady. This week they got Brady. We're literally doing it differently from everybody else. As a matter of fact, moving forward from this point on, I will not make reference to PFF.
Do you not understand that they are that way because you're Joe Flacco?
And you just like to discredit things that people deserve credit for.
That you can't possibly be expected to defend that.
Talk about the game, Sam.
So,
who cares about what people think about us?
Yeah, I like football season, all the things that go with it.
Welcome into the PFF NFL podcast. Steve Palazzolo here with Sam Monson. We are live, head-to-head with Good Morning Football, as always, on a Monday morning. Love the Good Morning Football folks. But we're live.
Labor Day morning.
Labor Day morning. Happy Labor Day to everybody here. And if you're working overseas, it's not Happy Labor Day. You're just working overseas, listening to us. So we've got a great show. It's our Monday edition. Don't forget, we'll be back on Wednesday as well. We've got the 3 shows per week. But today, I don't know if we've done this before, Sam, but we're going to make our official 2021 predictions for the season.
These are the ones we're bound to.
Yeah, unless we have previous predictions we want to exchange in.
Oh, okay.
If they're wrong. Yeah. That's correct.
Also, it's not like anybody, well, certainly it's not like we go back and look at how our predictions fared over the course of the season.
No,
other people might.
No, I don't care.
Yeah.
No, if there was a good one, we'll pull it out and brag about it. And that's how you do it. That is how you do it. You remind the people when you're right, and you
ignore it when you're wrong.
Ignore when you're wrong.
Yeah.
So this will be our official 2021 season prediction show. We already did some bold takes. I think, on the daily we did some back in May, but those don't count. May or June. This is the official one.
Right.
So we're going to do it. Don't forget, Kickoff 30 is still live over at PFF.com. You get 30% off any PFF subscription using the promo code Kickoff30. But let's get right into the predictions. Let's do divisions. We'll talk through. Let's just have some fun.
Well, first, let's tell people what's coming on Wednesday and get emails coming in.
Okay, do that.
Okay, Cousin Doug. Doug Kide, right?
Yeah, Cousin Doug's going to be on the show.
New member of PFF, our news division. Used to be on the Patriots beat. Great reporter, now a member of PFF. He's going to be coming on to our Wednesday show this week, giving us all of the news and updates as the season is then right about to start. And we need emails. We need people emailing in for questions and just general stuff that we can talk about on those Wednesday shows, because our Monday show over the course of the season is going to be our week review show. All the games that happened that weekend we'll talk about. And then the Thursday show is going to be a preview show. So all the stuff that's about to happen that weekend. The Wednesday one, though, is something a bit different, and that's where we want your input. So send us topics, send us emails, anything interesting you would like us to talk about to NFLpodcast@pff.com. Fire us emails, and that'll give us some way of stocking up those Wednesday shows.
We'll also talk to Cousin Doug about what he learned on his little training camp.
Why do we call him Cousin Doug, Steve?
Yeah, I was going to explain that too. Right. He's Cousin Doug because he is my wife's stepmom's cousin's daughter's husband. And we hired him a few months back to join the breaking news team here at PFF.
I wish I remembered. I dug it up that one time, that Only Fools and Horses clip of the dude doing that. That's just you. And I meant to send it to you the last time you did that to me, and I've lost it again. And I wasn't going to go find it again because I can't even remember which episode it's lodged in.
You made fun of all my,
I didn't make
Kevin
fun
Bacon degrees of separation, but
there's literally like a sitcom comedy sketch where a guy does that to somebody to make a deal, and I was like, that's you.
Apparently there was a comedy sketch based off what we did the other day with the how many bedrooms is your house deal.
Yeah.
Mitch Hedberg deal. That's we're funny. We're funny.
We can go that far.
People think we're funny-ish. All right.
Okay.
We're not here for any sort of humor. We realize that. We are self-aware enough to know that we're not funny enough, right? Mm-hmm. So let's get into our predictions. But yeah, send those emails, as Sam said. Let's go division by division and talk through it.
Okay.
Sound good?
You got some crazy order you're going in, or are you actually just doing it in the
look at the documentation.
Normal division
Look
order?
at the document.
The documentation.
AFC East. Look, we gave the West its due in our previews. We're going east to west here, though. AFC East. Let's predict the division. What would happen? What would have to happen for a team to challenge the Bills? And by the way, let's just reset here. Isn't it crazy that after 20 years of dominance with the Patriots, we thought last year might be the year where the Patriots were vulnerable. They were. The Bills took over, and the Bills have built such a good team that it feels like it's just their division to lose, and things have changed in the East.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is. They have. I mean, here's the more crazy part, right? Go back 12 months, and now utter the sentence, Josh Allen is clearly the best quarterback in the division.
And the oldest.
Yes, by 2 years.
He's the best and the oldest.
Right. So that's wild. Like, not only has Buffalo taken ownership of the division, but Josh Allen has elevated from like a guy who didn't look like he was going to necessarily work out, or somebody we were saying needed to take this monstrous leap from, particularly in the deep ball, to a guy that did put it all together, had a 90-plus PFF grade season, all-pro caliber year, and now we're saying he's A, the elder statesman in the division, and B, like, obviously the clear best quarterback until one of these young guys does take a jump. So there's two aspects of this. One, is there any sense that the Bills could regress from last year? They did really well. The team generally was impressive. Josh Allen obviously had that career year. how sustainable is all of that? And then B, how close are one of these other teams to taking a jump to challenge them? The most obvious one is Miami, because they were the one that was closest a year ago, and Tua is the one, I think, capable of taking a big step now that he's got his first year under his belt. Struggles, but not as disastrous as people are making it out to be, right? Tua wasn't terrible year one. Just in comparison to Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert, it didn't look great. But you could easily picture a world where Tua does get a bit more aggressive, had the lowest big-time throw rate in the NFL, had 7 of them or something, wasn't part of his game.
Right.
If that is a bigger part this year and he maintains, down-to-down efficiency, he's not a bad quarterback. And if Miami doesn't regress like Buffalo doesn't regress, Miami could easily challenge them.
In Miami's team building over the last couple of years, they built their secondary, play a ton of man coverage. Byron Jones, Xavier Howard leading the charge.
And kept it together when Xavier Howard, agitated for more money.
We thought that could have been an issue as far as Howard's contract, but they kept them together. Adding Jalen Waddle, adding Will Fuller whenever he's healthy and ready to go. I keep saying that, but they've added people in the right places. I think New England challenges though too. I think New England and Miami are right there together. Mac Jones, as great as he looked in the preseason, I think he's just going to be in a decent situation. It's not that they have the best group of playmakers, but I think the sum of their parts is good because they've got the 2 tight ends. Again, when they're healthy, Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. Adding Nelson Aguilar to the receiving core, Jacoby Myers is just really good and knows how to get open, and they got the backs in the offensive line. So, and the front 7 looks really good for New England. So I think both of those teams are challenging, and the Jets are going to be better too. So I think it's a competitive AFC East.
The Patriots are going to be interesting because, Mac Jones passed his preseason audition, clearly. But we keep saying that, look, preseason isn't a guarantee of regular season success. It's more of a, if you suck in preseason, I'm concerned. But if you're good, it's not like, well, I'm sold now. You're going to be great going forward. So now he's going to do it all over again. Sure. Now he's got this regular season audition he's got to pass. And there's no fallback anymore because you didn't just make Cam Newton the backup. You booted him out of the building. Cam Newton's gone. So if Mac Jones sucks, Brian Hoyer is the only alternative. And now obviously that's not happening. So this is this whole situation over again. Mac Jones looked really good. I am reasonably confident, given what we saw from him, that he will be pretty good as a rookie. But that's a whole spectrum, right? Tua wasn't bad as a rookie, and yet by comparison to the other 2 guys that hit the ground running, people are writing him off. We're already ready to get rid of Tua. So Mac Jones could land anywhere in that spectrum, from Tua of, there's some signs here, we were quietly impressed, to Justin Herbert setting rookie records and looking like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL.
Can we make a pact to not overreact this year?
No.
Okay. We'll overreact. We'll join in that?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure. How concerned are you with the New England's secondary? With Stephon Gilmore, he's on the PUP list. He's out till at least week 7. There's still rumors that he might get traded, and he's not even going to be there. If Stephon Gilmore is not there, they have J.C. Jackson, who you've mentioned before. Great statistics, but the grade's been solid, right? He's gotten away with some stuff. Jalen Mills is there, potentially starting. Jonathan Jones in the slot. Jawan Williams, big monster corner that they're trying to develop. They've traded for Sean Wade. If Bill Belichick wasn't at the helm here, would you look at this cornerback group? And then you have Devin McCourty, Adrian Phillips at safety, Kyle Duggar, solid group. But you would look at this cornerback group and be like, I don't know. I don't love the Patriots. But when Stephon Gilmore's there and everybody gets pushed down a notch, it's like, okay, J.C. Jackson's a good 2. And everybody, it's a little different without Gilmore.
With Gilmore and J.C. Jackson and then Jonathan Jones in the slot, that's a good group that you're comfortable with. But as soon as you have to go to number 4, it does get pretty concerning pretty quickly. But if that front 7 is vastly improved, and you can get some more pressure and all the different things that the Patriots like to do on defense in terms of mixing it up, you're less concerned about, then it becomes a situation that there are a bunch of them in the NFL where number 2 cornerback is not great. Okay. There are a bunch of teams for whom that is the case and it's not good. But if you're the Patriots and Bill Belichick coaching a defense, we can get away with that, certainly for a period of time while we're waiting for Gilmore to get back. If that's a long-term permanent problem, it's definitely more concerning, but it becomes like the weakness of the defense as opposed to something I think that's going to take it down.
All right, and then the Jets, I think, will be better. So we'll try to give it at least a minute or so to every single team here without going overboard. The Jets should be better. Can't wait to see what they have in Zach Wilson. And Robert Saleh, the head coach, again, has done such a good job taking the Seattle base cover 3 scheme, adding to it over the years. I think the Jets have some serious issues in their secondary as well.
Yeah, I mean, just compare that to the Patriots, right? It's like number 2 corner for the Patriots, if they don't have Stephon Gilmore, isn't great. The entire Jets group of corners are like Bryce Hall, Isaiah Dunn, Michael Carter. It's not good. Like every single player lined up at cornerback on the Jets roster would be a problem as the number 2 corner for the Jets. True. Once they don't have Stephon Gilmore.
For the Patriots, right.
Sorry, for the Patriots, yeah.
And so I can't wait to see what Saleh does, but the Jets will have a solid defensive front, but it's gonna be tough on the back end. So I'm picking the Bills to win the division. Would you go anywhere else? And let's just say who goes. Well, we'll predict wild cards later too. That might be telling. But are you going Bills here for the East?
Yeah, I think you have to.
Okay, so we're both taking the Bills in the AFC East, going out on a big limb. I don't think I have any crazy predictions here, but that's what the bold takes were for. We got really crazy with the bold takes a few weeks ago. Before we get into the next division, don't forget fantasy football draft season is upon us, and it's time for you to put the PP back in PPR league, Sam.
Excellent.
With the sponsors of today's show, it's Manscaped, the leaders in below the waist grooming. They just launched their new Performance Package 4.0. We've been with them since the 1.0. So here we are with the 4.0 with Manscaped. Don't neglect your balls like the Packers front office has neglected Aaron Rodgers, they tell us.
I'll do it.
Join the 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and get ready for kickoff by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping with the promo code PFF. This will help you tame your Troy Polamalu in your pants.
Mm-hmm. Nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that.
Nobody.
Inside the Performance Package 4.0, you'll find the Lawnmower 4.0. That's the trimmer. The Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer. The Crop Preserver ball deodorant. Crop Reviver toner. Performance boxer briefs. And a travel bag, which Sam's always a big fan of the travel bag. He likes
travel bag.
You focus on the travel bag, you don't have to do the less comfortable stuff like the rest of the read. Right?
I mean, look.
Isn't that the strategy?
You want to take that 4.0 and blitz the Polamalu, blitz those balls, go for it. I'm just saying it's a nice travel bag.
The important thing to remember, though, is you get 20% off and free shipping with the promo code PFF at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the promo code PFF at manscaped.com. Go get ready for football season. It's Manscaped. Use that promo code PFF. All right, AFC North. We can embrace debate on this one.
Yeah.
The Browns are getting all sorts of love this year. People are calling them the best roster and all this stuff. Can they beat out the Ravens, though? Can they beat out the Steelers? Can the Browns surpass the 2 teams that have been dominating this division over the last few years?
They beat the Steelers in the playoffs.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. But this is a full season here.
My whole take on the Browns is that if you white labeled them and just looked at their roster and didn't know that they were the Browns, you would be saying that this is a team right up there with the Bucs as having the best roster in the NFL. Okay, their quarterback is obviously weaker than Tom Brady, and that would probably put them behind the Chiefs as well. But that would probably be 1, 2, 3. Tampa Bay, Kansas City, Cleveland would be your 3 most obvious Super Bowl contenders. Maybe you throw Buffalo into that as well. But as soon as you add the baggage that comes with being the Cleveland Browns, this factory of sadness since 1999, this jersey that went down to the floor trying to find a quarterback for 20 years, all of the stuff that comes with being the Browns, just this constant disappointment for the last couple of decades, you're like, all right, let's just tap the brakes. Let's wait till we see it. Let's guarantee it's not going to fall apart around us. And therefore, let's lean Baltimore and let's maybe lean Pittsburgh. But the Browns should be really, really good. The only concern I have about this team is just the sheer volume of new faces they've added to defense and how quickly that can come together. And if, indeed, all of it comes together. They added almost half a new secondary, right? More. are they going to hit on all those guys, right? Some of them are draft picks. You don't always hit on draft picks. Will Greg Newsome actually be good, or will he be a guy that has a PFF grade of 30 and gets, eviscerated for a passer rating of 120 in year one, right? That can happen even to the best cornerback prospects you can see. We're right on the heels of Jeffrey Okudah being one of the best cornerback prospects we've seen come into the NFL. Just get torched every step of the way year one. Like, if that happens to Greg Newsome, wouldn't be surprising at all, and would obviously be a big dent to that secondary being overhauled from a year ago.
And I like that they at least would have some, Greedy Williams sitting there. Not that he's necessarily great, but he still could be a good player, at least there as insurance. So I think your concern is correct. We don't know, first off, how the Browns are going to deploy all of these players. They play multiple defensive schemes. There's a bunch of different ways that they can go. So I think there could be some growing pains there. So the reminder is John Johnson comes in from the Rams. Troy Hill comes in from the Rams. And you mentioned Newsome, the first-round pick. So on paper, throwing a ton of resources at a secondary that needed it, but could take some time for those guys to come together. Similarly, the Ravens' offensive line could take a little bit of time. Those guys haven't played together a ton here in the preseason. Ali Villanueva stepping in at right tackle. So, the Ravens might start out a little bit slow, either with the offensive line or the receivers, right? I mean, we keep saying for the Ravens, this is supposed to be a big year to test it out. How are they going to throw the ball? And now it was like, we had Sammy Watkins, we had Rashad Bateman. Now Bateman's hurt. It's just Watkins and Marquise Brown, trying to be the 1-2 punch over there in Baltimore. I think that's going to be the big question, of course, is what can they do through the air when the run game, which should still be efficient, when the run game isn't necessarily there. But they also lose J.K. Dobbins, by the way. Yeah. 5.8 yards per carry. And we were joking, like, why would you draft a running back in the second round? You got Gus Edwards averaging 5. Well, maybe the Ravens are like, dude, we could have somebody average 6. Yeah, we can have a 6 yards per carry guy because of our offensive system. They almost had that with Dobbins last year.
And I think there's definitely, if you have a Gus Edwards, as good as he's been in this offense, and I think he'll be absolutely fine if he has to carry the workload, I think the concept of having a different style of back to Gus Edwards, a speed, explosive type of guy, would be attractive to the Ravens. So, J.K. Dobbins was obviously that guy, but I think they're probably still going to look to add somebody at some point. They put in a waiver claim for somebody. I can't remember who it was. But
it was Royce Freeman.
Okay, but obviously being Baltimore, they were buried on the the order of waiver claims, so they didn't get him.
Yeah, and Freeman would have been a nice addition. Clearly, they're looking. He's another bigger back. That they want in their downhill running system. And then the Steelers, who, because we've been sitting here with no new NFL games for 9 months, basically 8 months, the Steelers have gone from like, oh boy, watch out, they're going to be bad next year, to maybe we're coming around on them. So I still think they'll be competitive either way. I don't love the Steelers offseason. That's the bottom line. The offensive line is a massive question mark. Even in the secondary, they just traded for Arkello Witherspoon, which might not seem like much, but given they were going to roll James Pierre out there at right corner, and they still might here in week 1, we just don't know much about James Pierre. So I think I like that move for Witherspoon coming in the secondary. For
them, it's really a case of how bad that offensive line is going to be. And in preseason, it actually looked okay. They didn't play badly at all. Now, that being said, like, Trey Turner wasn't good in preseason. Okorafor wasn't great. Like, Kevin Dotson looked fantastic, which is one thing that's definitely helpful. Like,
and Okorafor was going to be playing left tackle. I think he's going to have to start at right tackle with third-round rookie Dan Moore starting at left tackle. So both tackle spots are just a big question.
So there are still 3, maybe 4 out of 5 spots that look like they're going to be major question marks. Kevin Dotson is one from a year ago where we were, basing on 300 snaps, they were talking him up and saying, this is going to be great. That's one spot locked in. And you're like, well, 300 snaps, a really small sample size. I wouldn't be getting that excited. But he does look like he's going to be good based off preseason in addition to those snaps. Sure. So, but if he is, that's 1 out of 5. It's still like, again, you're landing to stick to hit 5 guys from a complete overhaul of an offensive line is really, really small. Doesn't mean you can't do it, but it means you're going to start off the season with a major question. So if that offensive line is a complete disaster, and we rank them 31st, I think, heading into the season, the Steelers are going to be in some form of trouble. Now, trouble for the Steelers isn't the same as trouble for, like, the Jags. The Steelers in trouble win 7 games, which is not terrible. If the offensive line, though, is okay, viable, just good enough for them to exist, then they're still a contender. Not maybe for the Super Bowl, but definitely for the division.
Yeah, I keep coming back to the Steelers' best bet is Big Ben bouncing back. He really did not have a good year last year. There was a point last year where he was getting MVP hype because they were winning. The stats weren't bad, but throw for throw, we had him as one of the worst in the league as far as missing throws, getting away with some turnover stuff. But I could see Big Ben not having the worst year of his career like he did last year, coming 2 years removed from the injury. So I'm far more optimistic about the Steelers after just watching Ben throw the ball a little bit in the preseason, watching that offense. I think it's definitely a 3-team race at the top. And then optimistic Steve is going to keep saying, well, that 4th team is going to be better, just like the Jets. The Bengals are going to be better this year. I think Burrow's going to take another step. We'll see about the offensive line and protection. I think Jamar Chase won't drop every pass. I think the Bengals, at least offensively, will be competitive.
It's funny, we talk about sample sizes all the time, and then it's like Roethlisberger and 10 dropbacks. Oh, look, he's back. Done. I've seen all I need to see.
But that wasn't a performance thing. That is a physical. That is a let me see him physically.
You don't
thing.
think you could store it up for 10 snaps and be like, yeah, I'm good now, and then back.
Of course,
into
that
the
could
game.
happen. But that is quite literally banking on the sample size.
Yes.
That is me saying the sample size is Big Ben's career, which dates back to 2004. When you and I graduated college.
All of which
that's
was
the sample size.
Yeah, all of which was pre his elbow falling off, though.
Right. So with the old quarterbacks, when I see them in preseason, I just want to see, is the zip there? Or like Peyton was throwing punts. When you saw Peyton and he's throwing end over end punts, it's like, ooh, that's alarming.
You've seen that back in 1999, though. They just went for touchdowns back then. They were still ugly.
It got worse in 2014 and 15 for Peyton. It got worse.
Yeah, I do think there's something to the idea that Roethlisberger at 40 is going to take some time to recover from having your entire elbow rebuilt in a way that he wouldn't if he was 29. So I think there's something to the idea that he might actually be significantly better physically this year.
He's not 40 yet. He's
already
already
40.
He is
39 and a half.
He's 29 days older than me.
Really?
Yeah.
You're old.
I'm not 40 yet.
You're way older than me.
You, me, Big Ben. We're all heading into our age 39 season.
I'm not even in the same calendar year as my 40 season. I don't know about you.
Ben's not either.
Yeah. Isn't he? He's 30.
We're all born in 82.
39 and a half.
He's 39. Yeah, 39 and a half, like I am.
I'm not.
At the end of the month.
Anyway, Bengals. It's, again, another team that's all about the offensive line. Like, can that – and that's actually been okay in preseason. Like, now, okay, preseason takes into account the backups and the backups going against the backups. But that offensive line has not been terrible, despite some bad beats across it. And they're another team that's like desperately trying to stitch together a 5 that will just keep Joe Burrow upright.
Yeah. My bigger question now is Zach Taylor. I mean, this is make or break for Zach Taylor. Show that there's an upward trajectory here for the Bengals. So I know I said the AFC East will be competitive. I won't say this about every single division. I do think the AFC North, though, these teams are going to beat each other up.
I think it's 3 and then the Bengals.
It's 3 and then the Bengals. But, man, I mean, if Burrow is as good as last year, don't they sneak into 5, 6, 7 wins if you're the Bengals? Even if everything's not great?
5 maybe.
I think they'll win a few more games. A lot depends on Chase. I mean, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd being that trio that is difficult to cover. But I think the Bengals are going to play some competitive football this year. Where are you going as far as the division champions here in the AFC North?
Cleveland.
Oh, you're going with the Browns, huh?
Yep. I'm buying into the white label team. I'm
going to stick with the Ravens. I think it's close. We'll talk wild cards in a minute, but I'll take the Ravens to win in the AFC North. I think they might go on a run, the Ravens, which we'll find out soon.
Well, they're 20 undefeated in the preseason.
Well, yeah, you have to go by 20 straight?
Yeah.
Before we get into the next division, got to give a shout out to our friends over at Fantrax. Fantrax is free. Fantasy Football League Manager is the most customizable, easy to use, and feature-rich platform in the entire industry, and PFF is gearing up to play our leagues on Fantrax this season. Multi-team trades, you got bonus points for touchdowns of different yardage. If you're coming from another site, not a problem. Fantrax can import any of your current leagues completely free. So create a free account now using promo code PFF at fantrax.com/PFF and get a chance to win a trip to any regular season game this year for you and your entire league, plus $6,000. Where would you want to go? That's promo code PFF at fantrax.com/PFF. AFC South, Sam. which of course consists of the Titans, Colts, Jaguars, and Texans. I will not repeat what I said about the first two divisions. This will not be competitive with all four. The Texans will not be as competitive as the fourth place teams in other divisions. That's my prediction.
Bold.
Going out on a limb here.
Yeah.
Coming into the season, it always felt like a Titans-Colts battle.
There was one of these, let's talk to a bunch of executives or whatever article. I can't remember where it came from, but there was someone named exec was saying Houston are going to be better than everybody thinks they are. Everyone's going to think they suck, and then they're going to, beat a few teams.
I mean, yeah, if they win 2 games, they're better than I think they are. So it's all relative. If you set low expectations,
and they've set them really low,
you can
really low.
It's easy to exceed low expectations. Don't ever forget that. So Titans and Colts atop here. Can the Jags challenge? Is it definitely Titans versus Colts at the top of the division?
Yeah, I think it's probably still a bit too early for Jacksonville. My concern with them is now, like, all of the excitement I had about this Urban Meyer offense like a month ago, it's gone. All of it. Now, maybe that was just we'll keep the powder dry in the preseason. We're not going to show
overreacting.
No, I'm out. I'm already out. It was all nice sounding. We're talking about hybrid weapons and players are going to move all around the offense and cause problems with matchups on defense just by their alignment. None of that. None of it was in preseason. Now, maybe you just don't want to put it on tape. On the other hand, there are teams out there showing like exotic 0 blitzes all the way through preseason, and you showed nothing.
What if it doesn't matter? What if Trevor Lawrence, so the last time we saw Trevor Lawrence was against backups for the Cowboys, but he absolutely balled out. He showed his ability to attack every level of the field.
What if the backup Dallas defense?
Yes.
The first team Dallas defense last year was letting that happen.
What if Trevor Lawrence is just awesome? And again, the Andrew Luck comparison for me is a guy that could grade well, not dominant, but has the chunk plays that kind of like make the grade look a little bit better, elevate his teammates. I wonder if Trevor has that in him. I don't see the Jags necessarily competing for the division. I think they'll be really good. I think they'll be much better, though, is the point. Colts versus Titans at the top. There was a point this offseason I was concerned about the Titans, but I think they're the favorite now. I would take the Titans.
Yeah, I think it's a 2-horse race. I can see a scenario where Jacksonville is decent. Like, there's definitely, in their range of outcomes, is a season where they challenge for the division.
Sure.
I just don't think it's likely. I think it's a reasonable bet based off the odds, but I don't think it's a particularly likely thing to happen. I think it's a 2-horse race between the Titans and the Colts. The Colts, it's going to be interesting now because of those key guys they've had injured, missing bones in their foot. Seems like a pretty important and weirdly specific thing for 2 guys to go down with in the same amount of time.
Carson Wentz, Quentin Nelson.
Yeah. So Wentz in particular, like, okay, he was already a huge concern given the year he's coming off and new environment, going to reunite with Frank Reich. What can he get out of him? Now you're saying, okay, now he's coming off a weird foot injury for a guy who was already – he's got a history of being a brittle quarterback and breaking. Is he back 100% to start the season? And what does that look like? Because if he isn't, or what it looks like isn't good, like, the Colts have no shot at winning the division.
Yeah, maybe the Colts have the craziest range of outcomes because we keep putting them up there because best offensive line in football up there with the Browns, 1 or 2, right? A defense that has, I don't want to use the word overachieved, but they've been really good the last couple of years given their talent level. They're solid in the back 7 with Darius Leonard at linebacker. They play a lot of zone. They play a good scheme. So the Colts have been good the last couple of years. I think we average Wentz out as this mid-tier quarterback, but he has experienced those extremes. There is a world where Trevor Lawrence is a better quarterback than Carson Wentz this year. And what does that do?
There is a world where Carson Wentz is benched for Jacob Eason this year.
No.
Yeah, because think about it. If he's bad, the Colts are incentivized.
Save the one.
Right. They're incentivized to bench him because it turns a 1 into a 2 next year.
They're also incentivized to keep him around for 4 years because they invested for 4 years. And
only if they think that that's a likely outcome. Like, there's a line that he can cross this year over the course of the season where the Colts have to decide he's not a long-term future for this team, and therefore our best option is to bench him because that turns a number 1 pick into a number 2 pick in the draft that we're giving away. And by the way, doing that essentially, presumably, is like a white flag on the season. Like at that point, they are saying this season is done, as by the way, is our future quarterback. Like, just raise the white flag. We're out of here.
Back to the drawing board again next year.
Yeah, or let's see what Jacob Eason has, because he looked okay in the preseason.
I will repeat for the 9,000th time, I promise. Well, there'll be a few more times I say this, but the 9,000th time this offseason, the Colts on the perimeter. Now that T.Y. Hilton is hurt, Zach Pascal, Michael Pittman, Paris Campbell, Michael Strawn.
Yeah.
Not Strahan, but Strawn. Could
Or
emerge.
Strachan. That's how you would say it in the UK.
Strachan? So you can get away with that.
Like the way it's spelt, as
tell
opposed to Strawn.
Strawn. They tell us it's Strawn. I mean, look, there's some upside there. Pittman and Strawn or whatever. Mo Alley Cox at tight end, Jack Doyle at tight end. My concern is that group. Wentz not having that, top 10 group of playmakers. It's not top 10. It's just not. So that'd be my concern with the Colts. The Titans, are they too top heavy? I mean, it is.
I mean, only if they're only too top heavy if they lose any of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, the Titans are 2 years removed from the AFC Championship. And even though I thought it would be really difficult for them to repeat that, I wonder if now, with A.J. Brown, Julio Jones, Tannehill throwing the ball the way he has, Derrick Henry just being an absolute freak doing what he does, and then the secondary, the upside that they have in the secondary with Caleb Farley getting drafted, Christian Fulton, Jack Rabbit Jenkins, formerly Janoris Jenkins. He's now going by Jack Rabbit. And then the great Elijah Molden, the rookie slot corner that I love. The unbelievable upside that they have if all of those guys play to their potential. The Titans have a wide range of outcomes too. They could move back up into that, hey, we're competing with the Chiefs territory.
And that's not even mentioning their best player in the secondary, Kevin Byard, who if he bounces back, and Amani Hooker started to look pretty good in preseason. Like their secondary has the potential to be really good. But again, it's a bit like the Browns. Just with that many new faces, how many are going to be good right away? I think you always just sort of default to, well, let's split the middle somewhere and assume some of them aren't going to work out, some of them are.
That's realistic.
Right, and if that happens, it's okay. It's not great. It's fine. Which, to be honest, is an upgrade over where it was a year ago, if it's just fine this year. But yeah, the Titans, though, it really is that it's 4 guys, which is insane. But it's only insane if they don't play. If A.J. Brown, Julio Jones, Derrick Henry, and Ryan Tannehill are on the field every week, this is an insanely difficult offense to stop.
Yeah, good luck.
Right.
And I would love to have a third option. Again, Anthony Ferkser's a good move tight end, and he can win some one-on-ones and all that stuff. I'd love to have a good number 3, but that's as a starting point. Those 4 guys, how do you stop them?
But Julio Jones in particular has now been dealing with injuries for a while, and that would be a concern.
Right. So, look, I think after all those moves, I like the Titans. I think they're volatile because of what they're dependent on there. The defense could not get any pressure last year. I don't know if they will be able to do this year with Harold Landry and Bud Dupree coming off the edge. Jeffrey Simmons is solid on the interior. I'm taking the Titans, though, in the AFC South.
Same. I think they're the one team where in order for them not to be the division winner, you're saying people are probably getting injured. Whereas with the Colts, their question marks are their important players going to be good at all? Whereas Tennessee, it's like if their important players are playing, they're good.
Colts are just such a fascinating case study because I think the roster year over year, but then it's like Andrew Luck retires and you got Jacoby Brissett, and then they bring Rivers in for a year, and now you're trying Wentz, and everything else they've done is good. We'll get into the West in a minute, but a reminder that the NFL is back, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is giving all new players a can't-miss offer for Week 1. Bet just $1 on any NFL game during the first week of the season and receive $200 in free bets instantly, no matter what. Take advantage of this limited time offer now. You heard it right. DraftKings is giving all new players $200 in free bets instantly when you place a bet of $1 or more on any Week 1 game. It's game week. Go do it right now. Head to DraftKings Sportsbook app. Check out all the great promotions and daily odds boosts. Plus, you can do same-game parlays. You can make every game a big game. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code PFF to receive $200 in free bets when you place a $1 bet on any Week 1 game. That's promo code PFF to get your free $200 in free bets instantly for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older. New Jersey, Indiana, Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or in Indiana 1-800-9-WITH-IT.
See, you tried to get extemporaneous and add some creative flourishes to the terms and conditions, and you fell.
I did.
You
lost it.
You went doing tricks on the tightrope and ended up.
I was trying to do it with my eyes closed and everything. You lose your balance.
Yeah.
Lose your balance.
You got too cocky.
But it's a really good deal.
Flew too close to the sun, burned his wings.
Still a good deal.
That was Icarus, right?
AFC West.
Yeah.
Who challenges the Chiefs?
I mean, what's a challenge? The Chargers might run them vaguely close, but the Chiefs are winning the division, and it's probably going to be by a couple of games.
We have to pick wild cards as well, so I'm going to give away. I'm going to pick the Chargers as one of my wild cards.
Okay.
So I think that they are within a couple games of the Chiefs. I'm going to predict the Chargers are challenging-ish. Not like they were in 2018 where there was a game apart, but...
You know the way the AFC North is 3 teams and then the 1?
Yes.
I think this is the same, except it's the other way around. It's like 3 teams and then the Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's fascinating, though, because the Chargers have... There's reason for optimism, I think, for the Chargers, the Broncos, maybe even the Raiders, but just not enough.
Every one of the other 3 has something significant missing and don't have Mahomes. Like
Right.
the Chiefs have something missing as well, but they have Mahomes, so it doesn't matter.
Mahomes, Kelsey, Hill,
Yeah,
Andy Reid.
sure.
They have all
but
that.
Mahomes in particular.
Raiders defense, massive question. Chargers, Herbert, year 2, don't know exactly with the defense. New head coach and Brandon Staley, tough to predict. Broncos, quarterback situation, just not up to par with others around the league.
Yeah.
And they've got a beautiful roster in Denver.
Denver's roster is great. If Denver had a quarterback, they would be a Super Bowl contender. And by a quarterback, I mean somebody capable of playing above.
If they had traded for Aaron Rodgers and those rumors were true, we'd be sitting here anticipating Chiefs versus Broncos.
If Denver had Aaron
What a
Rodgers, they might be the Super Bowl favorites. Like not just up there with Tampa Bay.
I wouldn't do it.
They would have a better roster top to bottom than Kansas City, and a quarterback that played better than Mahomes last year.
That's fine, but
It would be them versus Tampa Bay.
it's still look, I know Brady just did it in Tampa Bay in a system where it was like on paper, I can't believe Brady's going to go from New England to Bruce Arians. It'll never work. I would be cautious on Rodgers going to new system and blah, 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 blah.
This is Rodgers motivated by the revenge tour. You're telling me that Rodgers doesn't want to go to Denver and get a Super Bowl at the first time of asking and just like turn around and flip 2 fingers at Green Bay?
Fine, but instead, it's Teddy Bridgewater under center.
Yeah,
for
and
the
that's
Broncos.
not happening with Teddy.
Teddy will be all right.
Will he, though? Will
He'll
he?
be all right. So I'll use the word competitive again. Denver's going to be tough with that defense, deep secondary, pass rush getting better. Fangio's a good defensive coach. The Chargers are the team I'm picking to. Man, I didn't even realize. Yeah, I'm in on Chargers hype again.
Again, yeah.
Doesn't matter who's there.
68th straight year.
You just feel good about the Chargers every August.
I think they do have the fewest question marks. Like, they now have an offensive line that's been overhauled. Okay, again, a lot of new names coming in, so just automatically you're saying, well, all of them hitting? Probably not, but they don't need all of them to hit. Like, if some of them hit, it's a big upgrade over what it was a year ago. And for them, improving that offensive line is just all about offsetting the amount of pressure that Justin Herbert was under. Like, he was under a ton of it last year, and it didn't matter because he was the best graded quarterback in the NFL under pressure. That won't happen in year 2. Quarterbacks just don't repeat year to year to year as being the best quarterback under pressure. It's just there's so much chaos and luck and freaky other things involved in how you perform under pressure that almost no quarterback is able to consistently do that well each year. And even the ones that do it well aren't as good as when they're not under pressure. So for the Chargers, it was all about changing that percentage. How often is Justin Herbert going to be under pressure? And any upgrade they make to the offensive line makes a dent in that. So again, they don't need them all to hit. They just need some improvement. So that is good. The defense, like, there's always been a lot of talent there. It's a case of what can Brandon Staley stitch together year 1, because we said last year that on paper that group looks spectacular. Now they've lost some players. It's not exactly the same group of people, but in theory, there's a lot of talent on that defense that's waiting for a proven quality scheme like the one Staley is bringing over to kind of create a defense out of it.
How much we'll learn a lot about Staley's scheme even in year one, because as great as I think he was as a play caller last year, he had Aaron Donald.
Sure.
He had Jalen Ramsey, who he deployed, in creative ways. He had John Johnson, who we said is, 3 out of 4 years has been an 80-plus coverage grade safety, which is really tough to do in our system. John Johnson has done that. Troy Hill had a great season. Either was that the scheme or was that Troy? But a bunch of players who just either are great players or signed big contracts. What will Staley do with the Chargers? Now he's got Joey Bosa. Hopefully he's got Derwin James for the entire season. There are players to work with who are similar. But I can't wait. I think the matchups, man, when we get to our previews of the Chiefs playing the Chargers and then playing the Broncos again, with the way both defenses have been built, with the play callers, right? Staley and Fangio, they're similar system. That's going to be exciting in the West this year.
And then, as much as they're getting sort of billed as also rans in this little preview, the Raiders are the team that have given the Chiefs the most trouble over the past couple of years.
They have. And look, I don't know, like for the Raiders, if we were trying to be optimistic about the Raiders, we would say, and I can't remember if I did it here or somewhere else, but John Gruden, if you just looked at the offense and the side of the ball where he is the expert, so to speak, the offense has gotten better. I mean, they were one of the most efficient units in the league last year. Derek Carr played solid football. Their offensive line was hurt and didn't play well last year, and they were still moving the ball. They still did a great job. But we're now into year 4 of the Gruden regime, and there's no reason for optimism defensively. But if that somehow comes together and the new system with Gus Bradley simplifies things, and they're just average, all of a sudden the Raiders are far more competitive than they've been.
Yeah, and particularly if they really need Henry Ruggs to show up, though. Like if they got rid of the connection between Derek Carr and Nelson Aguilar, they lost the safety net that you required for the terms and conditions in cutting John Brown because he wanted out. Now you've just said, okay, it's Henry Ruggs time. And if Henry Ruggs can't be that deep threat,
or T.O., Brian Edwards.
Yes, the combination of T.O. and Randy Moss could also be useful. If you get rid of that and Henry Ruggs doesn't be that guy or isn't that guy this year, all of a sudden you've lost like a really significant threat to the offense. A guy like only Tyreek Hill had more deep touchdowns than Nelson Aguilar last year.
Yeah, Aguilar was incredible.
And that's something that teams had to think. They had to think about it every single week, and if they didn't, they were giving up a deep touchdown.
Right.
So if Henry Ruggs isn't that guy this year, you have just cut that sort of significant weapon out of the arsenal, and that's a massive blow to what that offense can do.
All right, so I'm taking the Chiefs in the AFC West.
Yeah.
You as well? Mm-hmm. Do you want to go right to the AFC Wild Cards?
Sure.
Who are your AFC Wild Cards? I'll go first.
Okay.
There's 3, right? I'm not misremembering this because there's one. There's only one. There's 3 wild cards now.
Yes.
And there's the
7 seeds.
The one bye. I'm going to say because I picked the Ravens in the AFC North, I'm going with the Browns as the wild card, Patriots, and the Chargers as my 3 wild cards, which means Steelers miss out, Dolphins miss out, Colts miss out. 3 of the teams that are probably most talked about in the playoffs in this particular. In this iteration of my predictions, those 3 teams miss out on the playoffs.
I will go Baltimore,
because you picked the Browns.
Yeah, the Chargers.
Oh, you're on the Chargers too?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And the Steelers.
And the Steelers. Now you've gone full circle.
All 3 teams in the AFC North are making the playoffs.
That I could see. If they don't beat each other up that much, Steelers, Browns, and Ravens all making the playoffs is not crazy. I think they're all that. I mean, I think the Ravens and Browns are that good, and I think the Steelers have that outcome in them. All right, let's go to the NFC, starting in the East. The laughingstock of the NFL last year was the NFC East, the division champions, the Washington football team. It is funny, man, because so much stuff's going to change. But last year at this time, it really felt like it was just the Cowboys and Eagles competing at the top, and it was the football team and the Giants who were just completely rebuilding. Halfway through the season, it was like Washington and the Giants could really do this. And as bad as Dallas was, they were still in the race. But I like the Cowboys in the East. I think it's the Cowboys and the football team now, this year, that are competing, and it depends on
Yeah.
the Cowboys' offense and them getting back on track, Dak being healthy, versus the football team kind of replicating a lot of what they did last year and continuing to improve.
Yeah, I do see this as like a two-horse race. I think it could become something different, but it does feel like Washington versus Dallas. And Washington are the sort of complete roster, but Ryan Fitzpatrick is the quarterback versus Dallas, who have, in theory, what could be a really special offense. Though we talked on the PFF Daily today about to what extent the offensive line will eat into that now. Given what they're looking like on paper, plus the fact that Zach Martin is going to start the season on the COVID list, and don't really have a great defense. Now, it should be better than a year ago, but it doesn't look like it's going to be a strength. And then you've got the Giants and the Eagles, who I think both have fairly broad ranges of outcomes. I just don't expect them to be – I don't expect the average to be up there with Washington or Dallas.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, definitely go listen to the Daily as we break down the Cowboys' offense and their offensive line. I think the Cowboys, they were on track last year. Again, I keep mentioning it's Dak's team. I think, throwing the ball and not necessarily relying on Zeke as much, but being a pass-first team, trying to score a ton of points because I think that's what they're capable of, and just being good enough on defense. I think that's enough for Dallas to win in the NFC East. The defense tends to regress. Camp, which very much resides here at PFF, would be pushing the Washington football team, who was a top 3 unit last year, both from a PFF pass rushing grade and from a coverage grade. We would expect those two things to get a little bit worse. And as much as we've talked about Fitzpatrick playing the best football of his career the last couple of years, Sam, I mean, Fitzpatrick is still tries to throw high school fastballs through linebackers sometimes. Like there's a lot of volatility to Fitzmagic's game, but I do love the way the football team's roster building has come together the last couple of years. Yeah,
I mean, I think that roster overall is in really good shape, and like Fitzpatrick, it's going to be a roller coaster because that's how he plays, but the average is going to be good. Like if you can, Washington's biggest challenge this year to me is can they prevent themselves from making a knee-jerk response when Fitzpatrick has 2 bad games in a row, because that's probably going to happen at some point.
No, you got to go the other way. Once he's good, this is the old way of handling Fitzpatrick. Once he's good, you yank him because he's due for the bad. Yeah, right. You're like, hey, this is the best you could do. We know you can't sustain it.
You've had 3 great games
Get
now.
Out of here.
The next one will be terrible.
It's Heineke
so you're
time.
Not starting. It's like the Denver thing I was talking about before. Where you just tell them week to week that the next guy's going in because of the opposition. Here, it's not because of the opposition. It's because you've had 3 great games in a row, Fitz. The next one will be awful, so Heineke's going to start.
That is honestly like the analytical way of doing things, right? Like we believe so firmly in regression to the mean, right? That you gotta earn this job. No, once you earn the job and show you're good, we know you can't sustain it, so you're
in your
out.
Entire career, you have never had 4 straight amazing games, so you're not starting the next one.
So it's Taylor Heineke time. We're going to let you sit. Sit on those.
But then how do you
games.
get him back in?
I think there's probably enough buffer in between games that it offsets the fact that he was good.
You just have to reset him just with a week on the bench?
You have a couple bad practices in there. You get it out. Okay. You have 3 weeks of practice, get all the bad out, and then he's back in the game. But
there's going to be a period this season where Fitzpatrick has like back-to-back stinking games. And they are the temptation for them to be like, we're in contention in the division. We're half a game back from Dallas now. We gotta make sure we win this next one. Do we put in Heineke? Heineke's looked great in practice. Like there's going to be that temptation. And look, Heineke hasn't done anything to say that he can't actually start, so maybe it is the right call. But the point about Fitzpatrick is however many bad games in a row there are, it's going to end up okay. Like over the season, it's going to be fine. You're just going to have to deal with the temptation that after 2 stinking games, he looks like a quarterback that should be taken off the field.
He started the 2018 season with the best start.
Yeah, like back-to-back 95 grades or something ridiculous.
Just unbelievable. So you don't know what you're going to get with Fitz.
But if he's starting 16 games, they're in good shape. 17 games. Damn it. 17 games.
You think so?
Yeah. Not for all of them. There are going to be
forgot our faces.
There were going to be 2 or 3 bad games in there. But as long as you're willing to fight through that and not, succumb to the temptation of putting in the backup, you'll be okay.
The thing I keep saying, too, about the football team, Ron Rivera has a history of, I think, getting the best out of his team. We saw that last year. That looks like an advantage right now in this division. We don't know where Mike McCarthy is going to be with Dallas, Nick Sirianni with the Eagles, Joe Judge with the Giants. So I think the football team has the advantage from coaching, defensive line standpoint. You know, the Giants, are we sitting here talking about the Giants and the Eagles in the running for the top quarterbacks next year potentially? Which, by the way, if you guys watched any college football this weekend, there might not be any good top quarterbacks next year, so don't get your hopes up too much. Which also goes back to our point that maybe the NFL has enough capable starters, and they're due to not bring 4 more good players in.
They might have to because,
You know, it wasn't a good weekend for
it's
top
overreaction week.
Yeah, that's what
everybody in college was bad, except the guys that aren't eligible.
The NFL stole all of the good quarterback prospects, you know, after what we saw this weekend. So yeah, I think the Giants' offensive line is still a massive question mark, but the playmakers are intriguing, and they're feisty on D. And then the Eagles, again, if Jalen Hurts, that high floor run centric offense is going to keep them in games as well.
I don't think either of those teams are bad. Like, Houston Texans look terrible. I don't think either of the Giants or the Eagles.
Sure.
I don't think they're even in particular danger of being that bad. I think the Giants' defense will be good. I think their offense has a lot going for it. It just might not have an offensive line that any of it matters. And the Eagles, as you said, like Jalen Hurts brings a really high floor to what the team can do because of that rushing threat. He's also, by the way, got like actual competition now in Gardner Minshew being on board. Like, if Jalen Hurts plays,
think so?
Yeah, like not to only if Jalen Hurts plays so bad that you're like, oh God, like this is just miserable for the next like 15 games. You now actually can do something about it. Like, at some point you can throw in Minshew. You're going to give Jalen Hurts the chance, but like if he just comes in here and it's unmitigated disaster start to finish, there's no chance of this guy winning games. It's all going terrible. He's heaving the ball to defenders left and right. You can do something about it. You're not just stuck playing 17 games of a guy who's hopeless.
The weird thing about the Eagles is I've agreed with so many of their moves from a process standpoint. The process of drafting Jalen Hurts in the second round, which, if you go back to our explanation of it, is there's a chance he's a good starter, and at worst you have a good backup, and that's a good thing. Now, of course, I didn't know that was going to run Carson Wentz out of town, but the process was sound. The process of bringing Gardner Minshew in, at worst you have 2 years of a cheap backup, right? At best, you know, maybe it's, you know, a starting caliber player or a player you can trade, and, you know, when teams are desperate or whatever it might be.
What it costs to bring him in, there's only like 5 teams in the NFL that should not have wanted to make that move.
Yeah,
like
right.
the ones that already had absolute nailed-on certainties as a good backup.
The Jaguars should have just held on to him.
Right.
Here's a cheap backup. And I know C.J. Beathard played some really good football in their system in the preseason for whatever it's worth. But Gardner Minshew, for 2 years on the cheap as a backup, and, you know, maybe he even walks and signs a contract somewhere.
That doesn't even make the same sense as the Patriots getting rid of Cam Newton. Like, at least you can say,
well,
with
the reports
Newton,
there are that Belichick offered Cam and said, look, we're going to make you the backup. Do you want to stay or do you want to go find a job?
Yeah.
So that's the report. That it wasn't as much a business decision as it was Bill doing him a solid, if that's true.
I'm taking the opinion right now that I don't believe anything Bill Belichick ever says, even if it's to, like, reporters off the record.
These are reports.
Yeah. Even if it's to, like, them off the record.
Okay, so let's pretend it's just a business decision.
So, but the point is, like, one of the things that was said is, look, there's a degree of, like, there's an aura around Cam Newton as a leader, as a, you know, an inspirational figure that might not be helpful as the backup quarterback in the locker room to a Mac Jones, you know, whose biggest problem is like a PR issue of looking goofy, right? Mac Jones as a player is fairly inarguably excellent, but he wanders around there with the waddle, you know, his dopey walk to the podium.
You think
he just looks goofy.
That's why Cam can't be in the building?
Yes, he looks goofy, and by comparison, you've got this dude over here with his fancy.
Don't be biased against goofy-looking people, Sam.
I'm just saying it doesn't help, right? You've got goofy Mac Jones over here, and over there you've got Cam Jones with his fancy hat, looking all cool, flying in the scooter.
Newton. You said Cam Jones.
What?
You said Cam Jones.
I said Cam Jones?
Yeah, we could run it back. You could see later.
That's so implausible. I don't even believe it. You're gonna have to find that out for me.
Can you guys please?
I refuse.
If you heard
Anyway,
Sam say Cam Jones, please leave a comment.
Cam Newton out there looking by comparison all cool, and everyone gravitating to him. That's not a helpful thing. Minshew,
ridiculous.
Nobody's like, it's like Trevor Lawrence is over here. Nobody's going, well, yeah, but Minshew's over here being all cool. I'm gonna hang out with him instead.
You don't think so?
No.
The dude's got a mustache and a headband.
Yeah, but it's like jokey. It's not the same thing.
Jean shorts.
Exactly. It's like cool in a sort of, in an ironic way.
So Cam's real cool and Minshew's fake cool.
Yes.
That's debatable. There's a lot of people that heard you say Cam Jones.
I don't believe it happened.
It's right up there with Tamus.
Yeah.
Could have been Cam Jones this year. Bill didn't want
Could have been Cam Jones.
NFC East, your prediction?
Washington win.
I'll take the Cowboys. Sticking with the Cowboys hype. Sticking with the Chargers hype.
When did they say they were going to give the Washington football name a name?
I don't know.
They're putting it off for a year, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Kind of like football team.
I can't believe they're ignoring the Sentinels. Like, why would you not? It's right there. Shane Falco could ring the bell for week 1 or whatever. It's sitting right in front of you.
Could be great.
Gene Hackman could do the voiceover. It's like it's right there.
NFC North, Sam. Packers. Who can beat the Packers in the NFC North? Who challenges the Packers?
I mean, again, it doesn't look likely that anybody can. There's too much wrong with the Minnesota Vikings for them to actually challenge an Aaron Rodgers-led Packers team.
By the way, we had a very fun discussion about the Vikings, their purgatory situation, teams that were rebuilding, including the Lions here in the NFC North on our last episode. If you haven't heard it, go check it out. We had a great fun fixing some of the teams that need fixing.
They should be better than a year ago, but it doesn't look like they're going to be in Green Bay's category. The Chicago Bears, they weren't a million miles away a year ago, and they should have a significant upgrade at quarterback, even if Andy Dalton is the starter for a while. Their biggest problem is that offensive line is a concern now that they get rid of Charles Leno, who, by the way, there's a ton of Bears fans that think Charles Leno was just garbage, like straight disaster, because people don't have an appreciation of the baseline for where offensive linemen are.
They don't.
And when Charles Leno loses, it's ugly. He's
got some ugly losses
right
in there.
He has some terrible reps on his tape, and if you just look at those, you're like, this guy can't play. But Charles Leno, as a baseline, is a capable starting left tackle. And by the way, you might find out this year how much worse that can get. Now, you've done a reasonable job of mitigating that and bringing in a guy like Jason Peters, who at least has the same kind of capability, even if he's been an injury concern over the last few years. But Chicago's offensive line is a mess. Even if Andy Dalton's the starter, that's not great. If Justin Fields is the starter, that brings a whole new dynamic of how much does Justin Fields offset it because he's athletic and can run around and make plays on the move versus how much is he feeding into it because he holds onto the ball for 9 seconds every play.
Jason Peters has regressed to the point where he's probably at Charles Leno's level. I mean, but he's 39. I mean, he's
Charles Leno's level, who's going to miss 4 games on average.
And Peters banged up and everything. So either way, the offensive line's a question. It is interesting. I'm not, I'm not the one saying Justin Fields must start. You have to start him. This is a disservice to everyone, every human in the world. That's the narrative right now. Mm-hmm. I think the only service the Bears need to do is for Justin Fields and his development. There's a balance between he starts right now and he sits out the entire season. I think if the Bears were going to challenge for a playoff spot, their best bet is Justin Fields playing, and just his playmaking takes over. And it's he's got some of those growing pains and all that stuff, but he's just such a baller that they make a playoff run. The other thing I keep coming back to, and I don't think the Bears have the same roster that they've had in recent years, but they have made the playoffs 2 out of the last 3 years, right? Yeah. 2018, they won the division. They were excellent. And last year, they made the playoffs. And they had Mitchell Trubisky generally as their quarterback. And this is not to hate on Trubisky, but he graded as a bottom 5 quarterback in both of those seasons. Andy Dalton, his track record is better than Mitchell Trubisky's. The Bears are going to have the best. They should have the best quarterback play that they've had under Matt Nagy. So do you say Matt Nagy's done a great job despite the quarterback play, or was it just the rest of the pieces on the Bears? They just had a good, solid roster across the board. They had an excellent defense in 2018. Since that point, they've just been good. across the board. I don't know if they still have that type of depth, but is there this argument that it's like, hey, they could actually be as good, if not better, this year just because Dalton and or Fields will be better than what they've had?
If Dalton or Fields was the starting quarterback in either of the last 2 years, Chicago would be a very good team. The problem is it's a little bit like the Minnesota Vikings, that they finally got an upgraded quarterback, even if it's not a big one, and the team around that guy has gotten worse.
Yeah.
So the offensive line is worse than it was a year ago. The secondary is still a concern. Like, this isn't the great team that it was, sort of waiting for a quarterback to take a step forward in Mitchell Trubisky. Like, that's the concern with Chicago. Even if Justin Fields starts and he comes in, he's amazing, and he like provides a massive upgraded quarterback, it's like, now does he have the team around him capable of beating the Green Bay Packers over a season?
You know what's
Probably not.
You know what's intriguing about their receivers? And I don't know if this meshes with Andy Dalton all that well, but I'd be intrigued with Fields. Have you seen their receiving core now? Like, what their depth chart looks now? Allen Robinson, who's awesome, true number one, does it all. Marquise Goodwin, Darnell Mooney, and Damiere Byrd. 3 guys with 4.3 legitimate speed. And the phrase I always use about Fields is defend the entire field, right? With Justin Fields. The way he rolls out, the way he designed rollouts, scrambles, and all that stuff. Now you got to cover the entire field because you get speed everywhere. I love it, man. The Bears, I think, are going to look different regardless, whether it's Dalton or Fields. It's going to look different. I think they're probably right there with the Vikings, competing for the second place in this division, and then the Lions in rebuild mode coming in 4th.
Yes.
Simple enough.
Yeah, I don't think the Lions will be terrible. People are putting them down there with the Houston Texans as like one of the worst teams in the NFL. Now, they might be one of the worst teams in the NFL, but I don't think that they're in danger of like a 1-win season and chasing the number 1 overall pick the way some people seem to think they are.
Oh, I think it's going to be tough for the Lions to win 3, 4, 5 games with Goff at quarterback.
I think it's going to be tough for them to win. Well,
I think it's tough for them to win so few games with Goff at quarterback. Okay. I think he's too good for them to be in the number 1 pick conversation.
Yeah, Goff. I don't think that they're in danger of winning like 1 or 2. I think that this is a team that wins 4 or 5 games and is bad but not catastrophic.
All right, real quick on the Packers. What happens this year with them? We've mentioned a ton about Rodgers.
We can't go 13-3 again.
They can't go 13-3.
Go 13-3-1.
Is the rest of the roster, have they gotten worse on the rest of their roster or not upgraded their cornerback spot opposite Jair Alexander enough that they've got either the same issues, like were they just too status quo? Not just this year, but also last year too. Remember last year they drafted Jordan Love and they drafted A.J. Dillon. Yeah, Dillon's a big bruising back or whatever. How much impact is that actually going to have? Have the Packers gotten better over the last couple of years, or are they still too reliant on their stars?
I think that's still debatable. I mean, they could get a lot better if Eric Stokes is better than Kevin King, which is very achievable. Like Kevin King
had a 50.6 grade last year.
Yeah, and was a real weak link. Obviously, he was the guy that got lit up in the NFC Championship that kind of cost him that game. And Eric Stokes, we've talked before about how he's a bit of a weird fit for this defense, but if he's an upgrade over Kevin King, they're immediately better at one of the more important positions on their team. If Rashawn Gary comes into this season and does take a significant step forward and is able to be that guy opposite Zadarius Smith, if he's able to be what Preston Smith was supposed to be but hasn't been yet, this real secondary threat as a pass rusher, opposite Zadarius Smith, who has been as advertised, then that's a huge upgrade. It's just the moves that they've made in recent years haven't yet started to pay dividends, and which is particularly problematic when one of the biggest one you made is the guy who can't pay dividends because he's currently sitting behind Aaron Rodgers. And by the way, when preseason didn't necessarily look like he was going to.
Jordan Love's turnover-worthy plays in the preseason were hilarious.
Yeah.
Back foot,
I mean, not if you're a Packers fan, but
heaves into double and triple coverage. They weren't great. Some people are calling for Cam Jones for MVP over here.
Good. I think they should be.
I think that's a possibility. So you're taking the Packers, I assume, in the NFC North.
Yes.
NFC South. Bucks. Who challenges the Bucks?
So, I mean, nobody, but don't be so quick to write off the Saints would be all I would say. Remember, the Bucs aren't even the defending division champions.
True. Saints won the division.
They're the defending Super Bowl champions, so it doesn't really
Right.
matter. But they didn't win the division last year.
I think the question about the Bucs, it fit a very clean narrative for you last year, right? Where they started out 7-5, and it was like, well, they'll figure it out.
Yeah, was that actually what happened, or did it just fit the pattern that I wanted to see?
Did it just fit the pattern? And because the other thing that happened, they won. They beat a lot of good teams in the playoffs, obviously. But at the end of the regular season, their schedule was kind of set up where all their tough games were early, and they finished the season beating up on the Falcons twice, the Lions, and I think the Vikings, it was. So it was 4 teams that they should have crushed, and they did for the most part. So did it just fit the narrative? Of course, the 4 games in the Super Bowl, they beat all good teams. So are the Bucs just, have they arrived?
Right.
Everybody's back. They're not going to, or are they going to have some blips along the way? And then the same thing from a Saints standpoint. Do you look at that team and say, there's not a massive difference in their roster? The Drew Brees that they got last year was the worst Drew Brees we've ever seen. Mm-hmm. Even though he's good at distributing and making decisions and all that stuff. And it was a lot of like dump offs to Alvin Kamara where he just, was a freak and dominated. Jameis will probably be better than what Brees was last year. And the Saints owned the Bucs in their first 2 games until they met in the playoffs, right? So the Saints, we could be sleeping on them, just like we're sleeping on the Steelers and some of these other teams that have had a track record of success.
I don't think that Jameis is going to be necessarily better than Drew Brees was a year ago, but he's so different, and the way he's going to be different is important. Like Drew Brees, it was the worst Drew Brees we've ever seen. He was 20 grading points worse than he was a year ago, or the year before that. And the year before that was a declining Drew Brees. Right. This was a guy.
So you don't think Jameis is going to be better than the fully declined Drew Brees last year? Like he couldn't throw anything outside the numbers.
Correct. So, but his overall PFF grade was still like 71, right? And this is
Jameis will be better than that.
This is 71. Jameis has never been better than that. This is 71 in a year where passing was up across the board. So I don't know that Jameis is necessarily going to be better, but he's going to be dramatically. Jameis's career grades, by the way, 67, 72, 73.7, 70, 68. So Jameis, it's so funny that he is the most volatile quarterback in the NFL, right?
Ends up in the same spot.
But his season grade ends up within a 5 grading point band every single year, even though it's like a heartbeat monitor looking at the game by game thing. So I don't think, there's no evidence to say that he will be significantly better than the 71 that an aging, wrecked Drew Brees posted last year. But the difference is, on any given play, he can put the ball 50 yards downfield anywhere. Whereas Drew Brees, it's like if the play started to break down, it's like, well, forget this. He can't get it there. I don't even have to worry about the guy streaking behind me towards the post. Drew Brees can't put the ball there anymore. So Jameis threatens areas of the field that were not in play last year. And the fact that he can do that is important. And it causes defenses problems, and it will offset some of the many more interceptions that Jameis will throw than Drew Brees did.
Yeah, there's so many fun QB storylines this year because you know me, Sam. I love seeing quarterbacks who we think we know something about them, but just in different situations. So seeing Stafford with the Rams and Goff with the Lions. And now we get to see Jameis with Sean Payton, and with the Saints. If you watched our NFC South preview show, I'm sitting here trashing the Saints playmakers. It's a big concern. I'm not saying it's completely solved. Marquez Callaway is going to help. And yeah, the roller coaster ride that is Jameis, even if it ends up in a similar spot as Brees, it could lead to the high end of volatility. A really efficient offense with the Saints.
You're still on this 1 year Jameis thing.
Yeah, like Testaverde.
Uh-huh.
Testaverde, 1998. 1998.
Yeah.
Took him 10, 12 years. It's fine.
Uh-huh.
Jameis is going to be good. Plus the LASIK.
Did you ever comp Jameis to Testaverde?
I think what happened.
It's actually not a bad one.
Eric Edholm, I think, what he did, it was the year that Jameis went 30-30 with the great 30-30. 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. And I think Edholm, the game that had happened, was like, the last time anybody came close to this or did it, Testaverde didn't actually do it, but was close to it, was Vinny Testaverde or something to that effect. And then the light bulb went off.
Right.
And it's like,
it's actually not a terrible Jameis comp.
Statuesque former #1 overall pick, arm talent, can do it all. Like, you see the can do, you see the don't ever do this. You see both of them side by side. Bucks, started with the Bucks. I love it. Jameis and Testaverde. And so yes, I am.
Which
all
actually
in on that
it
comp.
fits perfectly, because our comp to Jameis was Eli, right?
Yeah.
And Eli effectively is Vinny Testaverde with 2 Super Bowl runs.
Super Bowls, right? He is. The high volume, like, oh, look, Eli's got the 7th most touchdowns
Right?
of all time. He must be great.
Eli is the answer to the question of what would have happened if Vinny Testaverde went on 2 improbable, ridiculous Super Bowl runs and has 2 rings now.
Vinny almost did. So in 1998, Parcells takes over the Jets. He rejuvenates Vinny Testaverde. Bill Belichick's the defensive coordinator. And they ran into John Elway in the AFC Championship. Elway and everything. So, I mean, they ran into the wrong team. But Vinny got, he was legit that year. But then he tears his Achilles the first week of 1999. So the time when Vinny would have, he probably would have had a good 99. He would have had a 2-year run there probably if he didn't get hurt.
That's such a. I can't believe we didn't come up with that comp. Jameis is Vinny Testaverde.
Yeah, I'm all in on that comp. I
like
did
it.
tweet that recently because I think ESPN pulled it up when Jameis was on a few weeks ago.
Which just reinforces my point that the chances of Vinny Testaverde being better than an aging Drew Brees are still minimal.
I love it.
I'm
excited.
I am curious though, like how much can Sean Payton and the LASIK eat into the turnover-worthy plays, right? Because that's his problem. Jameis Winston is incredibly productive. Like Emmanuel Acho's out here tweeting that like 8 guys have thrown for 5,000 yards. 8. And Drew Brees has done it 5 times. But Jameis is one of them. Like, Jameis's production is insane. It's just that it doesn't matter because he throws so many turnover-worthy plays that it invalidates all of the good. Like, it literally does. If you look at it on how many yards is a guy moving the ball between turnover-worthy plays, right? Just as a broad stroke. Jameis is like one of the worst in the NFL because he's so turnover-worthy prone that he's not moving it far enough for it to matter. You can overlook a lot of turnovers if you're productive enough because, if I'm moving the ball 300 yards between each interception, I can live with the interception. If I'm only moving it like 170, it's a much bigger problem. So Jameis Winston has a career turnover-worthy play rate of like 5%, 4.8. That's catastrophic. Now, if he can change that under Sean Payton and with eyes that see to like 3%, it's still not good, but that's a massive material difference if he stays as productive as he can be. Like if he's a 4,500-yard passer with 30 touchdowns and cuts the turnover-worthy plays from 5% to 3%, like that transforms him from being the dude with the grade between 68 and 72 to being an 80 graded quarterback who's at the helm of a team that's still really good and could actually challenge for a division.
I just don't know if you want him to cut him down. You want him to cut them down. The balance between he does move the chains down. He does make a lot of good throws down the field. Not the deep stuff that he showed in the preseason, but the intermediate level, 10 to 19-yard level. You want to keep that aggressiveness as well. I can't wait. It's going to be great. I think the Saints are going to be I think they'll be good. I think they'll be a good team. Marcus Davenport looks like he's ready for a huge season right now. I would obviously pick the Bucs in the NFC South. I think the Falcons are in no man's land. I think the Panthers will probably take a step forward as a roster this year. But I'm taking the Saints as one of my wild cards. And the Bucs winning the division.
I don't know if I'll get there in a bit. Definitely, though, Tampa Bay winning the division, New Orleans to challenge them. My concern with Carolina is like, what are they doing on offense? Your moves this offseason have been bringing in Sam Darnold at quarterback.
What would you have done differently?
Not bringing Sam Darnold at quarterback. I mean, they were in a position to draft one.
Picking up his option may have been the questionable thing.
But you had to do that once you brought him in. Like, you can't bring him in as a complete lame duck. You almost have to. I don't really have a problem with. Just identifying him in the first place as a target worth.
But they identified everybody else. They're in on they're in on Deshaun Watson, in on Stafford.
Right.
They were in on everybody else.
They needed a quarterback. They came into this offseason knowing that they had to get a quarterback and came out of it with Sam Darnold. That is terrible.
Yeah, I mean,
That's like spinning the roulette wheel.
You keep throwing darts, man.
Yeah.
Would you not have thrown that dart?
No, that's not a dart I would have thrown. That's rolling the dice and coming up snake eyes. Like literally any other face of that dice is better for you than the one you came up with. So that was bad. You then prioritize the signing of Cam Irving and Pat Elflein on your offensive line. It's a miracle they re-signed Taylor Mouton, who's their one good offensive lineman. But now you've got Sam Darnold behind a garbage offensive line. Okay, he's got some nice receivers to throw to, and he's got a good offensive coordinator. But how is that offense going to be good?
Playmakers.
Regardless of the fact that the offensive line.
The trio of receivers, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Terrace Marshall. They feel like a lot like the Raiders for me, where every time they made a good move, I think they did offset it with a poor move. You very naturally laid out all the poor moves. The good moves being Terrace Marshall, second-round wide receiver.
Yep.
Bringing in Hassan Reddick just to see if he could still be an awesome pass rusher as he was down the stretch, as a nice compliment to Brian Burns.
Sure.
Second year of a lot of these defensive players that they drafted last year, so they'll be all right, I guess.
I mean, their defense, I think, could move in the right direction. I just think that offense.
Panthers should be looking to when Brady retires, as I've said. NFC West. So you're taking the Bucs, right?
Yeah.
We're in the South. Let's go NFC West.
Okay.
This is the most competitive division in all of football. Seahawks, Rams, Cardinals, and 49ers.
The AFC West is right up there.
The what?
AFC West.
AFC West?
Yeah.
You said it was...
It's three good teams and then the Chiefs.
You think the Raiders, Chargers, and Broncos are all good?
Yeah.
They're not as good as these teams.
Aren't they?
No.
How do you know?
Well, we don't know anything. Why is anybody even listening to us?
Dude,
Nobody
these teams
knows
might suck.
Nobody knows anything that's going to happen.
49ers were picking 12th in the draft last year.
Because of injuries.
Whatever. I'm just saying they weren't good.
They're 2 years removed from the Super Bowl. The Seahawks have probably done, I don't know, the least exciting stuff from a team building standpoint, but they still have Russ.
Yeah.
Right? The Rams bring in Stafford. The biggest storylines about this are you have two good coaches and good teams in the Rams and the 49ers, good rosters, who decided Jimmy Garoppolo and Jared Goff are not good enough for us, respectively. Theoretically, right? The Garoppolo's still going to be the starter for the 49ers. But theoretically, they had to get better. They had to advance their cause. And the Rams go from Jared Goff to Matthew Stafford. The Niners eventually going to move on to Trey Lance. They get the 2 QB system. They're going to run the ball like crazy. They're running power and, gap schemes now and everything. And it's going to be great. It's going to be the best division of football. Cardinals, year 3 of Kingsbury and Kyler Murray. It's going to be awesome.
All right.
Best division in football.
Fine. Which team do you think is winning it?
In these official picks for right now, I typed in the Seahawks.
Okay.
I think the best quarterback in the division wins out.
Yeah.
Which was generally my strategy.
It's not a bad
these selections.
It's probably a good starting point. The Seahawks, though, they're another team who've just been chipping away at the overall quality of this roster for years now. And it might not matter because Russell Wilson is still Russell Wilson, but it becomes really intriguing with this team because unlike a Patrick Mahomes, like the Chiefs could chip away at that roster for years, make it worse across the board. It wouldn't really matter because you have Patrick Mahomes and you know that you're perfectly happy to just turn it over to Patrick Mahomes and let him do his thing, right? If your team becomes Patrick Mahomes every week throwing the ball 60 times, the Chiefs are happy enough to do that.
Yeah.
The Seahawks, though, in order to offset all of the stuff they've done to this roster, they need Russell Wilson to play at the peak of his powers. But this is a team either reluctant or unsure of how best to do that. They do want to let Russ cook. They just don't know exactly what he should be making or what implements he has at his disposal.
Apparently Pete Carroll, though, was tripling down on run the ball and run it more and all that stuff.
It's just what he wants. I think people overreact to the Pete Carroll stuff.
All I know.
But we covered this, right? That Russell Wilson he has this unique playing style that makes it very difficult to identify exactly how you should be letting him cook.
How to let him cook.
Yes. Which becomes problematic if you need to lean on him. Leaning on Mahomes just means give him the ball more, right? Call less run plays. Let Mahomes do whatever the hell he wants. Have at it. Same with Tom Brady, effectively, or most of those quarterbacks. Leaning on Russ more, I don't think means the same thing. So how do you do that? What do you call to let Russ cook more? Because it isn't the same as Mahomes.
I agree. And so I would also argue that the years where Brian Schottenheimer was there and they were going run, pass, run, pass, when they did pass and they did run play action, it did play to Wilson's skill set, and his throw for throw grading and efficiency and all that stuff was excellent because a lot of his passes were just down the field and off play action and all that stuff. I think this year's adjustments, though, I keep coming back to have answers. Offense has to have answers. You're at the crux of it. You want Russ throwing the ball down the field. You want to take advantage of DK Metcalf down the field. You want Tyler Lockett at the intermediate and deep level. But the answer you need to have is the horizontal passing game. So again, it doesn't mean, hey, Russ, go throw the ball 20 times to start every single game here. But you have to have a little bit more quick game. You have to have a little bit more of the entire field being attacked. And I think the new system, Shane Waldron coming over from the Rams, there's going to be more tempo. There's going to be more of a horizontal game. But I also think they'll tap into the downfield passing attack. So it's another thing I'm looking forward to seeing Russ in a different system here. And if they do run the ball more, I think the McVay tree system might work more efficiently. Less downhill, a little bit more outside zone type of stuff. I think the run game can be more efficient, and Russ can thrive in this system here.
Have the Seahawks really only got 4 wide receivers on their roster right now?
They do. Yeah, they do. And one's their second-round pick, Dwayne Eskridge.
That feels like a problem. Like there's teams out there keeping 6. Seattle's got 4.
Yeah.
That's not good for that doesn't do anything to turn you away from the let's run the ball more line of thinking.
I'm mostly concerned about the secondary. They just traded away Akello Witherspoon, and Witherspoon's not great. He's had 2 pretty good seasons, a couple not so good seasons. They trade him to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it's like, oh, that could be a good move for the Steelers. But I thought the same thing for the Seahawks, right? They're going to roll. DJ Reed's been a good, solid, undersized corner for their system, but he's played well there. Trey Flowers is the other starter, competing with Sidney Jones, who they just traded for. It's not great on paper. Jamal Adams running around back there. Quandre Diggs trying to do a little sit-in because he wants to get paid too.
I mean, it's in flux. It's a group that's like they're making moves because they don't have anything settled right now. Like they have 2 cornerback spots there to be won. DJ Reed apparently won one of them, which is why Witherspoon gets moved. But everything is up for grabs. And again, this is a team that hasn't had a settled slot corner either. They've got Marquise Blair is their slot corner right now. Marquise Blair was like a powerful, hard-hitting, strong safety, but he's the closest they have.
But they're playing
to like a quality
zone,
starting.
So it's I don't know. It's a different system. They're doing different stuff.
Yeah, but not necessarily because that's what you should be doing, because that's just what they've decided is the best thing to be doing with the group of personnel that they have.
I'm also worried about their pass rush. Their pass rush was not good last year. Carlos Dunlap, he needs to turn back the clock, or one of their draft picks over the last couple of years, Darrell Taylor and Alton Robinson, like somebody's got to step up. LJ Collier, former first-round pick, somebody's got to step up and rush the passer better. Somebody that's not a safety, like Jamal Adams, their best pass rusher. So all that said, I think the new offense rejuvenates Russ just a little bit. I'll pick the Seahawks. I think the Rams are going to be really good. Can't wait to see Stafford in that offense again for the 1,000th time. The big question there, I think their defense is a bigger question. Raheem Morris takes over for Brandon Staley, plus you lose John Johnson and Troy Hill. So you've got younger players there, new system. It's not always as simple as, hey, we'll run the same defense as last year. We saw that with Kyle Shanahan when he left Atlanta. You can't just, even if you have a good play caller who comes in, you're losing Kyle Shanahan. You're losing a great play caller. By all accounts, from what we saw with Brandon Staley last year, the Rams are losing a great defensive play caller. That's tough to replace.
Yeah. I'm going to go with the 49ers.
And you're going to take the 49ers to win this division?
Yeah, even with Jimmy Garoppolo starting the season.
Well, you like the 2 QB system, so you got to go all in on
that. I don't even know if they're going to do that, but I do think regardless, at some point Trey Lance is going to be deployed this season, and when he does, that's going to bring a world of stuff that teams can't defend.
I'm torn on the Cardinals too, because I really want to like them. I think Kyler will get better. But are we going to be talking about, is Kingsbury the right guy for that job a year from now?
I think the Cardinals are exactly where they're supposed to be. I think that's not where the narrative is because of how the last season ended. Like it started hot and fell away. So the feeling, it's like the opposite of the Bucs, right? The Bucs started not great, but finished obviously with a Super Bowl win. So it's like the arrow's heading up and everything. The optimism is great. The team is building in the right direction. They're going to be better this year than last year. Everything is great. The Cardinals went in the other direction. They started off pretty well. And we're like, ooh, actually, are they going to contend this year? And then, ooh, no, not at all. This is all falling to pieces. So now it's everything is bad. There's just the negativity around the Cardinals is pervasive. But overall, that's about where they should have ended up. If you look at just their record.
They finished 8-8.
Yeah.
You think they're another like a 9-8 type of team?
So they're 8-8 last year, but now that means that everything is on this season. This is the year where it needs to take this step forward. Otherwise, if they finish last year not well and then don't get better this year, now I think you do have reasons to be concerned. So I think it's a big year for Kyler Murray. I think it's a big year for Kingsbury to show that he has more to this offense. Like, he's already developed whatever version of the air raid he was bringing in a lot. But I think now he needs to recognize where it's failing and change things. Like this idea of Nuke Hopkins can't line up in the same spot every single play again. It just isn't. It's not working in the NFL level. And it might work in college. It might be fine. The idea of
for Peyton Manning.
But Peyton Manning was doing that in 1998.
I know. It's a different
game. The game has changed.
It's a different
And
world.
by the way, he was doing that with not just DeAndre Hopkins, but like Marvin Harrison on one side, Reggie Wayne on the other side, and Dallas Clark down the middle. If you had that in Arizona, it might be a different discussion. But you don't. You've got like one amazing receiver, and then you've got other interesting players.
The thing I keep saying, too, is you could see the Cardinals be a better team and not have it show up in their record. I think any of these teams, I think this is the most competitive division. They'll beat each other up, and it's going to be a challenge. I'll take the Seahawks to win the division. You're taking the Niners.
Yep.
Let's go NFC Wild Cards then. I already mentioned I'm picking the Saints, and I'm talking up the NFC West, so I'm going to say the Rams and the 49ers, also the other wild cards. So I'll take 3 from the NFC West plus the Saints, which means who's missing out here? That's everybody else in the NFC North, so the Bears would be missing out. Every other NFC East team is missing out. And then, the Panthers and Falcons in the South.
Yeah, I think I'm taking the same teams, but obviously with the 49ers as a division winner. I'll take both Seattle and the Rams to make the wild cards, and then the Saints.
All right, how about AFC and NFC Championship for you?
The AFC and the NFC Championship.
AFC Championship. Here's what I've got.
Oh, I've already put – I'm going to stick with my bold claim.
What did you put?
If Washington make the playoffs, they're making the NFC Championship game. Fitzmagic is going to come alive in the postseason. So the NFC Championship. He's
going to go full Rich
The NFC Championship. Here we go. The NFC Championship game is going to be Tampa Bay against Washington. Fitzpatrick is going to have dragged them to the NFC Championship game, and then 2 snaps in, he's going to get hurt. Heineke's going to come in, have another 92 grade, and this time it's going to be enough to beat the Bucs. Heineke's going to be leading the Super Bowl champion Washington football team.
Super Bowl champion.
Well,
NFC champion.
I'd gone that far. I might as well take the next step.
Washington football team. You heard it here first. The football team, the team with no name, is going to win the Super Bowl this
first
year.
And only time. Nobody else in the world has said that. Okay, what's happening in the AFC Championship game? Kansas City's got to be one. Kansas City, Cleveland. We're going to get a repeat of whatever game that was. Divisional round?
They were the divisional, yeah.
We're going to get a repeat of that, and I'm not going to call who's going to win that.
What? You have to make a call.
You didn't say that. You said just pick the NFC and AFC Championship
then I was going to get
game.
to the Super Bowl. Okay, well, you think about it. We'll get to the Super Bowl. I was a little bit more conservative. Big shock here on the AFC champion. Not that crazy, though. I took the Ravens over the Chiefs.
Ooh.
I called this the,
This is the game.
This is the year.
The one they finally get it
The
figured
Ravens
out.
get over the hump this year. So I picked the Ravens to win the division. I'm picking the Ravens over the Chiefs in the AFC Championship. I'm going crazy in the NFC Championship. Bucks over Packers. Really out on a limb here. Bucks over Packers. I'll say Bucks over Ravens. Going with favorites across the board. But I'll say this is the year. It's weird to me that the Ravens just don't match up well with the Chiefs. And I'm more like, let's play the odds rather than it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
I
still think it should
Ravens
work. It just hasn't.
Yeah. I think the Ravens are close to the Chiefs as a team across the board, So I'm going to say this is the year the Ravens get over the hump and beat the Chiefs. So Bucks over Ravens, I'll take in the Super Bowl. You're going football team over either just pick the Browns, right? Over the Browns in the Super Bowl.
Okay, sure.
Football team over the Browns.
As long as once the football team's in there, it doesn't really matter what the
Can we get the social media team here to fire that up for Sam,
no.
please?
God, no.
Please, we need to get
This
that
is a highly ironic prediction that does not feature in social media or in official projections in any way.
Can we cut this part out so people don't understand nuance, because they don't anyway on Twitter? It doesn't matter.
If the Ravens beat the Chiefs, is that the game that we've been saying it should be? Like they get an early lead, they establish the run, they grind out the clock in Kansas City, they like stumble for a drive and just can't get it back.
It's that, but it's also, I think, defensively, the Ravens have good players who can play man coverage in a creative enough scheme.
Yeah, which is why there's like a drive or two where Kansas City just doesn't put up a touchdown.
Yeah, but I think the Ravens have not slowed down the Chiefs' offense very well.
Right.
And I think they have the ability to do it. And the way they have to play is similar to how New England does it, which isn't through crazy blitzing. You pick your spots from a blitz standpoint, but you play man coverage and you use your extra defenders to slow down the stars. I'm going to call this as the year that the Ravens do that, because they've got a Marlon Humphrey and they've got Marcus Peters and they've got guys who can lock down. You lock up the stars. You use your extra defenders in creative ways. I think they'll do that. And then, they'll run the ball, and Lamar will pass the ball more efficiently. He's also been horrible against the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Lamar, for whatever reason, has been terrible against the Chiefs. No matter which scheme they're running, it doesn't matter. Like all through the years, he's been terrible. So I just think all that stuff gets better. And do they play in week 2 again? Did I keep misremembering that? Let me see. We're going to do a couple individual award predictions too.
Oh, okay.
As I look up the Ravens schedule.
So MVP.
Yeah, they play the it's Chiefs Ravens on Sunday Night Football in week 2. Chiefs at the Ravens.
Sunday Night Football.
Have they played in Baltimore before, or is it always in Kansas City? I think it's been in Kansas City.
Know.
So Sunday Night Football. I think the Chiefs could still get them in week 2. But come playoff time,
that's when
the Ravens overcome.
So at that point, they'll be 0 and how many against the Chiefs?
3?
0-3, and then
they've lost twice now.
Then they get the 4th,
them, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds about right.
Nobody beats Baltimore 4 times in a row.
Nobody. I mean, look, the Saints owned the Bucs last year until the playoffs, and the Bucs beat
3 times.
Yeah. Don't beat the Bucs 3 times. Can't do it. Who's your MVP? Your favorite award here?
These are terrible because the obvious answer is always the one to go for. Like you start off with.
Well, you need to match it with what you just predicted. So if the football team...
No, because he doesn't come hot until the playoffs.
Oh,
They just, like Fitzpatrick plays at 75 for the year, gets them to the postseason, and that's when he catches fire.
Then he goes full Flacco.
Yeah, exactly. Then he goes full Flacco and wins the championship. Well, full Flacco until the NFC Championship game, and then Taylor Heineke goes full Flacco. Taylor Heineke goes full Nick Foles. So you get a full Flacco followed by a full Foles to win the championship.
That's unstoppable. If you combined
this is what
2012 Flacco and 2017 Foles, it's unstoppable.
Right. That's what happens.
That's what the football team
That's
has.
what I'm calling.
Did you at least had them winning the division? There's at least some continuity.
It is
there.
at least possible.
Yeah. That's good.
Within my own predictions, it is possible to happen. Yeah.
Who wins all the NBA?
So Mahomes wins MVP because, of course, he does. Like, that's your starting point. Doesn't mean he will, but that's the one with the shortest odds every year.
I'll mix it up and say Tom Brady at 44.
God.
He's got a full season of it. If those guys stay healthy, and it's a full season of Antonio Brown, Mike Evans.
I mean, if the narrative is true that they are getting better this year, that makes sense.
It could be Brady. They could throw for 60 touchdowns. 17 games, throw for 60 touchdowns.
Uh-huh. So then the next one is your Stevenson Award, the highest PFF
So who's going to
grade,
have the highest PFF grade?
which is always Aaron Donald.
I'll also predict Aaron Donald. That was a stupid guess. Anyone else? Any outsider that could do it?
Yeah, there's always like Myles Garrett if he puts together a 17-game run.
I was going to say one of the Bosa brothers. I was going to go similar, one of those elite edge defenders.
Myles Garrett is like on the cusp of a season that rivals Aaron Donald.
That's a good guess. So offensive player of the year?
Did
Travis Kelce win it last year?
should have. We gave it to him, right?
I think we did. I always get confused by what we did and by what other people did. I'll say Devontae Adams for Offensive Player of the Year. I also hate these awards. Do we have to do them?
No. I mean, we only did them because you put them in the document.
Yeah, let's not do any of these.
Okay.
Anybody on YouTube have any questions? What else do you guys want us to predict here? Put some comments in. We'll predict some stuff. Maybe we'll
do the rookies because those are more interesting.
Offensive and defensive rookies.
Offensive Player of the Year, you went Adams. I just don't care. Defensive Player of the Year will be Aaron Donald.
Donald again, yeah.
Offense and defensive rookie.
Defensive rookie, I'll jump right to and say Micah Parsons.
Okay.
The Cowboys.
Uh-huh.
We just had go listen to the Renner show we had last week too. Again, we've got the midweek Wednesday show to mix things up, and Renner said Parsons looks like the one rookie who's just ready to join the elite ranks at his respective position. And I will buy into that. The Cowboys, he'll be flying around the field in that Cowboys system. So I got Micah Parsons winning. D-Roy.
I will go with Patrick Surtain 2.0.
And then Offensive Rookie of the Year.
I mean, obviously one of the quarterbacks. Which one?
Which of the quarterbacks?
Uh-huh. I said when they drafted him that Trey Lance would win Offensive Rookie of the Year if he started enough games.
Might not get the opportunity, though.
That's the thing. Is he going to get given the chance to do it by the 49ers?
Trey Lance and Justin Fields probably won't have enough opportunities.
So
we know that the other three will.
If Trey Lance features as like some kind of 2-quarterback system, Taysom Hill package, how long would he need to start in addition to that to still have a shot at it? Like if he got 12 games as a starter, but like 5 more as a gimmick?
I could see Lance in a back, like if he was a backup the entire time, was a goal line runner. Like what did Cam ran for like 12 touchdowns last year? I could see them using Trey Lance and him having 10 or 12 touchdowns.
That's what I'm saying. So
and
like how many starts does he need in addition to that to actually
win? I think
win
12's reasonable.
12?
I've seen people try to make the Alex Smith, Colin Kaepernick prediction. You know, like Alex Smith, the year that Kaepernick took over for Alex Smith was good.
Yeah.
He was having a good year, and the Niners said, we just want to be better. Which is a lot like what they're doing right now, which is Jimmy Garoppolo is good. Like, for whatever, Jimmy Garoppolo's a good quarterback. They want to be better. I could see that world happening here as well.
I mean, 12 starts gives him 5 games to get into the lineup as a starter. I could see that happening.
I could see that.
Screw it.
So
Let's stick with it.
Trey Lance?
Yeah.
I'll go Trevor Lawrence.
Lawrence.
I'll go out on a limb with the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
With Trevor Lawrence.
See, this is the failing of these award predictions.
YouTube says Trey Lance equals Josh Rosen. Gregory Rousseau, Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Trey Lance equals Josh Rosen.
Which 2020? Oh, because somebody asked which 21 quarterback is Josh Rosen. I mean, there doesn't have to be a Josh Rosen.
Yeah, I mean yes, and the idea that one of them will bust.
As we said on the other show, 2018 had the 5 first-round picks. This year, 5 first-round picks. All of these first-round picks have shown way more than Josh Rosen showed in his first preseason, than Lamar showed in his first preseason, than Josh Allen showed in their first. Like a lot of them have played better.
Doesn't mean they'll be good.
Doesn't mean it. I'm just saying.
Right now, all 5 of these guys look like they might actually hit.
Like Josh Rosen looked overwhelmed pretty much from the get-go.
Yeah.
So, cool, man. Good show. Anything else you want to predict for the season? We've already done some bold stuff.
I don't need to predict anything else. I've already predicted the most outrageous thing that anybody will ever predict.
It's our real prediction show, and you just went football team over the Browns?
Yeah.
The Super Bowl?
Well, you railroaded me to the Browns, but sure.
Would have been better if you just picked the Chiefs. Football team over the Chiefs.
Sure. I mean, well, look, once you've picked a full Flacco followed by a full Foles, I don't think it really matters what the AFC does.
I really haven't. So I used to predict Patriots-Packers for 10 straight years, and I just picked Bucks-Packers.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much just I pick Brady and Rodgers
every year.
Yeah.
And it's never happened, right?
Well, I mean, they went to the NFC Championship last year.
With them there, yeah. But can't go in a Super Bowl until Rodgers goes to Denver.
Ooh, there we go. Let's predict. Rodgers goes to Denver in week 5.
A decade of you predicting Rodgers Brady, and it can't happen until like the last year. Brady, 48 years old. Rodgers finally goes to Denver, and that's when they meet.
This is great. Anyway, it's a lot of fun. It's game week, Sam. Are you fired up? You ready?
Yeah.
After all this?
Thursday.
So just to remind everybody, Kickoff 30, Kickoff 30, 30% off your PFF subscriptions. Now's the time to do it. Get your 30% off. Get 365 days of access, which means if you buy it this week, you're already prepped for your fantasy draft for next year. You've got all that. You've got your draft guide. You've got all these grades and stats that we're talking about, especially if you get the elite package. That's what I would suggest. So get your 30% off right now. Kick off 3-0. If you still have a fantasy draft to do, there's a lot of Labor Day night fantasy drafts. It's not too late to get in right now. You get all of our fantasy tools for as little as $7 because we have monthly packages in the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's 30% off. Kickoff 3-0. Kickoff 30 is the promo code. I don't know when they're getting rid of it, so just act quickly. For us this week, Cousin Doug's on Wednesday. We're going to go around the NFL with all of our news. And then Thursday, we're back in the groove, man. We got 16 games to preview, and we'll go through each game and give you guys something to look for in every NFL game. Because it's game week, season started.
Let's go.
And as I said, with college football, the QB draft might be terrible this year. They could all be bad.
There's a danger. Yeah, there's a danger that you might be overreacting to 1 week of gameplay.
Well, it looked suspect, and all the guys who were on the cusp, you could see them going either way, probably went the wrong way.
Yeah,
in week 1.
In 1 week.
We don't know who the next Joe Burrow is yet. We don't know who Kyler Murray is.
Right away.
This is what it's all about. Overreaction. We promise we will not overreact here on the PFF NFL podcast.
Right then.
Not in the NFL. We won't.
I just predicted Washington to go win a Super Bowl.
That's not overreacting. That's just, going out on a limb.
Okay.
Not overreacting. Also, don't forget, I'll be giving away, I'll do it on Wednesday. I'll give away an Edge subscription, either Wednesday or Thursday. So it's not everybody who sends me a picture of their NFL podcast and daily subscription. Not everybody. You'll be put into a drawing. Somebody was like, where's my subscription? I'm like, you'll be put into a drawing if you send us those screenshots. PFF email us NFL podcast at pff.com or just tweet us. We're done here. The show's over.
Yes.
We appreciate everybody.
End it.
See you guys on Wednesday and Thursday.